All right. Welcome back to Great Reviews It All. So, I have decided that I wanted to do some more V.C. Andrews series. Now, just saying, I have not read the books, so I am specifically going based on the series that have been showing on Lifetime. I love me some Lifetime. Um, So I want to do the different series that I have access to so far. I'm going to start with the first one that I chose, which is Ruby. I do have access to Dawn, so I have them all recorded. So once I finish with the Ruby series, I think Dawn will probably be the one that I do next. And then there's another one, I think it was called Heaven or something. I have to go back and look, but there'll be some more. So I'm gonna start this. Oh, and it's gonna be long. I know it is, but we're gonna get through it. So, I've started with the series called Ruby. Um, I love it because it is based in Louisiana. They talk about the Bayou, New Orleans. Love it. So starting off episode one in the Ruby series, that one is actually called Ruby. I did take notes because it is, I think it's an hour long or 2 hours long. I'm not sure, but so I went through it the best way I could. So I'm gonna have to go back and go through every single episode, which there's only four, but that means I have to do every single one of them. So I'm gonna try to make it a weekly thing. Don't hold me to that, but I'm gonna do the best that I can. So yes, so V.C. Andrews Ruby series. So we are starting off in the Bayou. We are at Ruby's grandmere. If I get these words right, I'm gonna try to do the best I can with the terms. Grandmere. At her home, obviously Ruby has been living with her grandmere, and they are helping her. She's helping her with a woman that is there with a deceased baby, and they mentioned something about there being a bad spirit in the child, and they needed to do a ritual to remove that spirit from the child in order to move forward with the burial process. So for me, that is the introduction into that. On the term that they use on the series is actually voodoo. I didn't hear the word hoodoo. I heard voodoo, so I'm gonna say that, or at least that's what it sounded like they said. But yeah, so that's that. Now, that's how we were introduced, starting off the series. Moving on into the next day, we see Ruby painting. So that is where we are going to learn that this is something that she's really good at, and she enjoys doing it. Um, and the picture that she was painting, it was really beautiful, and it was this dark figure in there, and her grandmere asked her about it, and she lets her know that to her that's what her father looks like in her mind. Um, so that was like, oh, okay, I got you, girl. Really beautiful um, painting. Now, as this is going on, we're gonna get Gramir. She starts to, kind of to warn Ruby about boys, um, basically saying that they don't have a good history with men, and it runs in her family. So that was, Gramir kind of roundabout way trying to say, girl, take it easy. When it comes to the boys, you got to be real, real ooh, on that. Probably trying to tell her, like, girl, just don't mess with nobody, okay? But yeah, but that's that. Now, moving forward, Ruby, she is talking to this boy named Paul. Now they're walking. Looks like she's walking home, and he's like, saying something about this dance that's coming up, and she's saying, yeah, I got asked by another guy. So I'm really considering it. And he's like, well, I assume that you would, be going to the dance with me. And she's like, well, I don't know why you would think that when you have not asked. All in all, he ended up actually asking her to go to the dance with him, and she agreed. Now, let's see. She said that she was actually headed to go assist her grandmere with her little store that she does. She's selling some items, some homemade things that she did. And then Ruby wanted to put her paintings up to see if they would sell. Now, while she's out there doing that, of course, Gramia, she sees Ruby with Paul, and then she lets her know, hey, the Tates and the Landrys, um, nothing good comes of a combination between those two families. So just basically trying to warn her that you're going to be due for a heartbreak if you really pursue something with Tates, with this Tates boy. Now this man, he shows up. He sees the little storefront that she has outside the home and pulls up to Gramier, and he notices the paintings, and he said, he wants to buy them, put them in to showcase them for sale. So he bought every single one of them, and I was like, okay, Ruby girl, you gonna go, okay, one of your little paintings it's gonna be up in the gallery, you get you some money, girl. And he paid her for her stuff, and that was beautiful. Now, Garmier told her, be careful with your money because we don't want your, I say pawpaw where I'm from, but basically you don't want him to catch wind that you done sold your paintings and got some money. All right. Now, later on, Ruby, she's sitting in the car with Paul. They're sitting outside. It looked like it was like a bar or something. It had to be a bar. Or something they were sitting outside of, and all of a sudden, and she's telling Paul about the paintings that she sold and how, it's in New Orleans. And she's really thinking about her future, and here he is like, oh, like, you're gonna be big time, you're gonna leave me here. And it's just like, dude, y'all are young, you're ready to try to snatch her down and keep her where y'all live. And she's saying that she wants to really dive into the arts. She really wants to really go in with her paintings and see where it takes her in life. She really wants to see what happens with that. But obviously, he's not too keen on that because he really wants Ruby. Like, he's drawn to her. In the process of them discussing this, her Grandmere, or Grandmere Jack is what she said. He is getting thrown out of this place, which again, I think it was possibly a bar. I don't think I really saw anything written where it said bar, but he's getting thrown out, drunk off his tail, still trying to, beg for a little extra to get some money to get another drink or something. Obviously, he's a drunk. Now she sees it. They're both sitting in the car and they see it, so she immediately jumps out when she realizes who it is, snatches him up, and she's so freaking embarrassed. And Paul actually ends up taking them home. To take him home, and then come to find out that she felt some kind of way because she's like, great, so now the town is that's gonna spread, it's gonna get back to your family, and gonna basically be an issue between like muddying your name, your family's name, because you've been caught up with something with the Landry business. Which kind of basically lets us know that as far as the last name Tate in the Bayou area, that's a big deal there. And then the Landrys are looked down upon as like the lower level, dirt poor kind of vibe going on there. Now, with all of that going on, Paul, he actually ends up telling Ruby that he loves her. And it kind of throws her off, but in the end, she actually ended up responding in the same way and telling him that she loves him as well. Now they start making out and stuff, do little, little kissy, whatever, and they end up knocking something over, which made Grandmere Jack pop up and be like, what's that noise or whatever. So that's what made them stop. Now, as she's being taken back home, her Grandmere sees her and Paul outside kissing. Now, when she finally comes into the house, she's just like, girl, okay, listen, you will not be able to see Paul anymore. And of course, Ruby is not understanding, like, why can't I talk to this boy? I really like him. We love each other. I really, really like him. So she eventually has to tell her finally why she is so against them talking to each other. And she lets her know that, and this was so sucky because here we go with this again, um, that Paul is actually her mother's first child. So technically, her and Paul are half siblings, basically. Same mother, different fathers. Um, and of course, she was very, you know, thinking that that was the lie at first, but she eventually did believe her grandmère and ended up having to basically tell Paul that she can no longer talk. They can't talk anymore, and she doesn't want to, be in a relationship or anything like that. Now, at this point, she has to make up a lie because, for the sake of not um, spreading that secret around anymore, she opted not to tell him the true reason. So she lied and said that she just doesn't want to hold herself down. And he gets mad, of course, wants to insult her and insinuate that she just wants to be the typical Landry woman who's just out here, sleeping around with a bunch of men. Basically, that's what he was insinuating. And so he, dips out. Now, at this point, Ruby has noticed that Grandmere has a nasty cough going on, and that it's not getting any better. It's actually sounded like it's been getting worse. In the process of her noticing this, she actually received some money from notifying her that one of her portraits, her paintings, sold. And so, like she said, Grandmere told her, put that money up. Now, in the process of her telling her, to go, that she wants to tell her, she told her to go get the Bible, her Bible. And she tells her where to hide her money, to hide it from her Grandmere Jack. She tells her the story or the information about her dad, her real father, and how this came about. Now, with that being said, there was a picture in the Bible, and it had a picture of her father and a picture of a little girl who she thought was her, but she told her, no, that is actually your twin sister. I was like, okay. Now, Grandpierre, see, I've been saying Grandmere, it's Grandpierre Jack. She told her that her Grandpierre Jack sold her sister to the Dumont family, which they live in New Orleans. And then once that transaction had already happened, her mother then gave birth to a second child, which was Ruby. Now, what she said was when her grandparent realized that the daughter had a second child, he was actually about to grab that one and sell that one as well, but she said she was not having, and this is Grandmere who's saying this. Now, the saddest parts, one of the saddest parts of the series is when Grandmere passed away, because she told her to go get some. Her cough was acting up again, told her to go get something for her, and when she turned around to hand her what, or ask her a question about what she asked for, excuse me, y'all, she actually ended up, she actually saw that her Grandmere, she went on and she passed away. So that was really sad. Now that her Grandmere is no longer there, Grandpierre is the one who's kind of, we're seeing more of him now, and actually getting more from him. So, they have the funeral, the little viewing or whatever, however they do their thing. Everybody came to visit. Now, Grandpierre, he shows up, of course, and he's just like, telling Ruby he's going to dry up, he's going to do better, she'll see. I literally did not believe that. So, now with all of this being said, she hadn't seen Paul, but later on, she actually ended up getting a visit from Paul knocking on the window, coming in through the window of her room. Now, she ended up letting him in. I don't think she should have let him in, but she did. It was like, girl, you already know what's happening, but I can understand that she probably wanted some kind of comfort, especially when she just lost a person that was the closest person to her and that raised her, right? Because her mom passed away from birth, after giving birth. Now, while Paul and her are in the room having a conversation with each other, um, we can hear Grandpierre Jack in the living room area sounding like he's having like a little hangout sesh with some people or whatever, which is understandable that you would have some friends over to comfort you in that time of losing someone special to you. Understood that. Now, Paul, he's in the room talking to Ruby, telling her that he, apologizing for being mean to her. And in the process of him doing all that, because he's basically still trying to be with her, she goes on ahead and tells him exactly why she had to break things off with him, right? Um, and I'm just like, whew, Jesus, here we go. Now, even when she told him this, I did not expect to hear what I heard come out of his mouth. He basically was pretty much saying that he did not care. He still loves her. No one else has to know about this secret. We can keep it between us. And I'm just like, no, Paul, no. That's a bit much. We just no, don't do that. Now while they in there doing that, they eventually he keeps talking to her and talking to her, but I really feel like she was in a very fragile state at that time. So for him to even come talking to her about all that, pushing up on her, in my opinion, I thought that was really sucky because she was very vulnerable at that time. And they end up kissing and laying down in the bed. Nothing really happened because at this point, Grandpierre Jack comes busting in the room and finds them two in there. And of course, Paul runs on out the window. Um, I'm kind of thinking if he hadn't walked in there, something more probably would have happened. So that's that. Now, as that happens, sorry, had some technical difficulties. So with that being said, so at this point, Grandpierre Jack then walked in, Paul then ran off, ran back out the window. So he basically says that he should have known that she had loose knees like her mama. Just saying. Now, she's getting all upset because she done told him about, the alleged, what possibly happened with him selling her sister. And he's denying it. And he basically just telling her, like, look, you better not have nobody else up in this room. Okay? Understandable. Girl, no, we're not doing that around here. Now, the next day, she's up moving around. He comes in, he was drunk as all get out. Now that's that. Now he tells her that one of his friends thought that she was really pretty and was looking at her. And at this point, he's trying to sweet talk her into the idea of running off with some random man and becoming a wife. And she's like, I'm not ready for that. Like, I don't want to do that. That's not what I want to do. She's like, she wants to, do her painting. She wants to do more with her life and just be someone's wife and bear their children. She wants more for herself. Now she gets so mad that she snapped on him and told her, look, at this point, this is my house and you can get your tail on out of here and go back to where you came from and you stay out of my way. So he leaves and I'm like, girl, that's not going to go easy just like that. He ain't doing that. Your grandmere, she done already told you a little bit of history on your Grandpierre Jack and what he's willing to do for some money. Next thing we know, he comes busting in the door with some chains and he gonna go off on her and basically done put the chain around her ankle and then shackled that girl to the bed and told her she better stay there. You're not going nowhere. Telling her the friend is coming later. And then he basically finna sell her off to marry this man. Now, I thought that was really jacked up. And the friend's name is Buster. That's the name. Now she said. Now later that day, he actually did arrive. This was just disgusting to me, very disgusting, and it just So he comes later that day to discuss Ruby. And Grandpere Jack wants to sell Ruby for $1,000. Now back then, that 9 times out of 10 it was considered a lot of money to sell somebody for. Now while he's doing that, Ruby hears the conversation, and she's just like, "Oh heck no!" She trying to figure out how she can break through this freaking thing and get herself off that bed so that she can try to figure out how to get up out of there. Now, even more disgusting of a conversation, this old nasty, Buster, he's basically saying that will be willing to give him some extra money if he can go ahead and try her that night, because he feels like he needs to try to test the merchandise before he just spends that kind of money on it. I'm like, oh, you just disgusting bastard. But anyway, at this point, Ruby done was able to get herself off the bed. And so she's hiding, because at this point she would have had to hurry up and try to escape from the window, but she didn't do that. I don't think she had enough time to, because Buster was already headed back there. And I'm like, really? Grandpa Jack, like, you basically have no respect for women whatsoever. You look at them as a means of currency, which that's a whole nother story. I'm not even gonna go there. Now anyway, here comes Buster coming up in the room. Ruby knocks his tail out, and Grandpa Jack, obviously he hears the commotion, and so here he comes in, and she basically strangled that man to death, okay? Which, honey, I don't blame you. Not saying that, doing it to a person is okay, but in this situation, for this TV show series, we understand. Okay, now Ruby was able to get the key. She unshackled herself. She hurries up. She go gets all her money, grabs a few things so she can dip on out and get out of the bayou, because everything that just happened in that home, she don't need to be there when somebody figures out what the heck happened. So she dips out. Now she goes to get a one-way ticket to New Orleans. Thank goodness that she had the money to be able to get herself a ticket to head to New Orleans, because her intent is to go and find her dad, that her grandmother told her about, because at this point she has no one left, right? All right. Now, while she's waiting at the bus station, she actually meets a lady. And this lady it was a neck bone of a black cat that was killed at midnight, which was a form of voodoo. Okay, give me 1 second, y'all. All right, so I'm back. Sorry, I had to take a phone call. Now, we're past all of that. As far as the bus station, her meeting the lady, getting the necklace, supposed to give her good luck or something like that. So keep your mind on, don't forget about this lady, because I think I don't know which episode she's gonna come back up, but she is gonna come back up. I think it was this one. But the lady ended up giving it to her. Now, Ruby arrives to the front of the house. She has the photo in her hand. She didn't go inside just yet. She was just standing out there, probably just taking everything in, because, mind you, she's from the bayou, so she's not used to seeing certain things. This is a different lifestyle for her. Now, as she's standing there, this guy just walks up to her and starts talking to her. And then as he starts talking, I realize, okay, he thinks that this is the other sister, because he's talking like he just know who this is. And he goes to kind of, I don't know if he grabbed her or he did try to grab her hand or grab her arm or something. And she just was kind of like, oh, like, kind of like, get up off of me. And then she's like, oh my gosh, I know what this is. She was like, because he called her she's like, my name is Ruby Landry. And the boy is just like, huh? With that being said, he ended up, just trying, like, dang, he said, wow, because he's just like, oh my goodness, like, you literally look like this Giselle that I've been knowing. And so he actually offers to take her in to go meet everybody. So, the guy, his name is Bo. We have been introduced to Bo. Now he goes upstairs. Giselle is upstairs getting ready for a ball. He goes up there, tells her, I need you to come downstairs. I have a surprise for you. So she comes downstairs and she sees Ruby and immediately goes into freaking denial as if Ruby is not standing there right in her face in the flesh. It's like, girl, you can't bypass that. Now she's just like basically telling her to go away. She's not trying to hear it. She ain't trying to believe what she's own two eyes are seeing. She's like, whatever. And Bo is like, hold on, Ruby, don't go nowhere. He's like, I'm gonna go get your father. You stay right here. And Ruby's like, don't leave me in here. Like, girl, hold your horses. I'm gonna go get him and you just chill. Now, while she's waiting, mind you, Bo said her father is next door at a party. Now, while she's waiting there, Ruby meets the cook, Nina. So Nina is going to be very important in the story as well. Now, Nina, she actually warned Ruby about Giselle. So, all right. Now, finally, with all that happening, Ruby gets to meet her father. He arrives and he immediately hugs Ruby like OMG. He immediately just accepted her just off the rip. Now, the wife, Daphne, she seemed reluctant to, basically having somewhat of a similar reaction to Giselle, which is just like, okay, whatever. And I'm like, mind you, ma'am, Daphne, Giselle is not your child either, but they look at you as her mom, so whatever. Now, with all that being said, Ruby actually ended up getting an invite to stay there in the home, even though Daphne and Giselle absolutely did not want her there. Now, the next day, Ruby, she runs into Giselle. And I mean, Giselle is being nothing but rude to Ruby. Ruby is being super nice, and Giselle just really ugly. Is the best way to say that. Now, once all this happened, I mean, Ruby, she does get the opportunity to speak to her dad a little bit more, just explaining to him, she's never been out of the bayou, and he actually offered to take her around the city, just to kind of see some things, sightsee, and whatnot. Now, so he goes ahead and he takes her on the tour. He tells her the story of how he met her mom and, and how that all came about. And then she did actually end up in a painting gallery where she saw one of her paintings on the wall and she showed it to Mr. Dumont. And he was like, well, now. He felt very proud of that, right? Now, Daphne, she gets a moment to speak to Ruby because she's like, all right, you're here. So we need to come up with a story about where you were being and where you came from. And basically, she wants her to say that she was kidnapped by Cajuns. And Ruby is just like, I'm uncomfortable with saying that because I don't want to lie I'm not going to speak ill on my grandmere. I'm not going to say nothing ill about, I'm not going to do that. And she's like, well, you can either say that or you can just say nothing at all. I'm like, Daphne, shut up. And then she says something, about how if you're going to be a demon, you need to look like a demon, blah, 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 blah. So they get her new clothes, new shoes, so she can look the part, honey. Whatever. Now, while she's going over in the room that she's sleeping in, looking at all the new clothes, new shoes, whatever, here comes Giselle peeping in, nasty Giselle. And she was being really, like, nice nasty. You know what I'm saying? Like, she say one thing and then she'll kind of throw a little jab in the mix. And then if you didn't catch it, you didn't catch it. Now, Ruby, she actually asked about Bo. At this particular time, Giselle was being, not really saying much, almost as if, okay, it's nothing really serious with Bo. He's just like a little plaything, she's not serious with none of the boys at all in their circle and whatnot. But that kind of was a little like, we're going to see what happens with that because, like we said, Giselle is being nice, nasty. Now, Giselle, she comes up with this idea. She said the boys are going to come over. How about let's do a little twin switch, which I still think was very ugly of her, a very nasty idea. But her impression of what someone from the bayou, a Cajun woman, is very ugly. just not cool. It's like you don't even know them. Obviously, Giselle, you ain't never been out to the bayou, so how in the heck would you know how they talk and how they act? It is very just of her. I do not like Giselle. Now, um, the guys, they came on. Like I said, Giselle, she really put on this over the board her thoughts of what a Cajun woman talks like. And immediately, I mean, it's very obvious that Giselle thinks that Bo is a dummy, but he literally realized immediately which one was which, and that they tried to do a little switcheroo, and it just didn't come off. It didn't work. It worked. Oh, I'm so sorry, y'all. It worked on the other boy that was there, but Bo was just like, yeah, I'm not going for them. So he decided, what he was gonna do was pull her, Ruby, acting like Giselle, was to pull Ruby into another room, and that way he can kind of get back at Giselle. Because at this point, Giselle, once she notices that ain't down one of y'all in there and she don't know what y'all doing, she's gonna feel some type of way and try to come and find y'all. Now, like I said, when she noticed it, she immediately ran to the door and then comes in, and that's when she figures out that Bo figured out who she really was and that it wasn't a good switch. A twin switch didn't work. Now, while they were doing all that, they were talking, and Giselle was just being Giselle, drunk off her tail. She actually threw up all over the other boy, and I was like, oh my gosh. And you have the nerve to want to talk about Ruby and where she comes from and how she dressed, and look at how you act. Girl, please. You ain't got no class. Just saying. Anyway, she ends up getting really sick, and then she tells her while Ruby is tending to her in her sickness, she tells her that she did not even think about Bo. And I'm like, the only reason you're saying that is because you realize that Giselle and Ruby and Bo actually kind of have a little chemistry going on right there. And so now all of a sudden you want to tell her, no, don't talk to Bo. And I'm like, don't talk to Bo. You was literally just making out with a whole nother boy. Get out of here. Now, Nina, she's downstairs. She's making something for Giselle, and she actually mentioned Mama Didi, who is the voodoo queen. And Ruby goes ahead and she takes Giselle this hungover drink that Nina made. And once she gave that to Giselle, it was like a switcheroo. She just popped up and was ready to move around. Now, at this point, Ruby, she asked about some crying that she had heard from another room when she was walking to leave from where Giselle was. She heard some crying. And then she told her that was her dad, who goes into her uncle's room. And from time to time, you will hear him in there crying because he's so sad about their situation that happened. Now, while they were out, it was Ruby, Giselle, Bo, and the other one that she actually ran into her friend Anna, who was all dressed up or whatever. And then everybody figures it out. And I don't even think it really hit Ruby just yet when she was looking at that her friend Anna was actually a prostitute. And she said, yeah, remember I told you I was going to come work with my aunt, to save me some money to go to nursing school. I think it was nursing school, whatever. So Giselle's like, oh yeah, you better be nice to me or I'm going to tell. It's like, Giselle, get out of here. Seriously. How dare you? You just threw up on a man, on that other boy. You just threw up all over him. Like, literally. Get out of here. Anyway, now, Giselle actually was talking to Ruby later that day, and, they went to school. She got to meet Ruby went to school. She met everyone, and Giselle was actually pretty jealous of the way that everybody was accepting her and just showing her all the more attention. And here, I mean, come on, Giselle's used to getting all of the attention, right? This time, Ruby is there. She's new, she's fresh, and everybody wants to get to know her and talk to her. So whatever. I'm like, I guess. Now, Giselle actually ends up telling Ruby that she's been invited to a slumber party. It's just the girls. And they were all doing things where they were dressing up. She convinced Ruby to put on, this particular outfit, but they said, here, go to the bathroom, put this on or whatever. Now, while Ruby was in there changing clothes, all of a sudden the shower curtain pops back and it was some boys in there and they snapped a photo of her with barely anything on it. I thought that was so ugly. And so, of course, Ruby, upset, who wouldn't be, runs out, goes into the room, and she's just, clearly upset. And she grabs her stuff. And then for them to act like, oh, it wasn't nothing. Like, seriously, she grabs her stuff and she dips out, goes back home. And while she's there, Ruby, she ends up actually running into Bo. And I think Bo, he forgot about the slumber party, but he actually ended up running into Ruby and was like, okay, opportunity, let's seize it. Now, let me see. Bo and Ruby, they have a little conversation, and Ruby is being very upfront with the whole situation with Giselle. And he's just like, look, we don't really go together. I'm not interested in her like that. I'm actually interested in, going out with you, if you'll have me, pretty much. Yeah. So that's that. And so pretty much she opted to go ahead and see what happened, between her and Bo, because she really, really likes him, obviously, Ruby. Now, mind you, Ruby and Bo, they actually go out on a date. By the time Ruby comes back, she gets approached by the household, Daphne, her dad, and Giselle. Now, Giselle, she basically, I think, was upset that Ruby went out with Bo. So she told them about her encounter with the prostitute that day. And Ruby pretty much just told them exactly what it was. Of course, her dad believed her because that did sound like something that could possibly happen. And of course, Daphne and Giselle, they are in cahoots with each other and trying to figure out any kind of way to get rid of Ruby, but her dad is not seeing that. Okay? So that's that. Now, moving forward, Ruby actually ended up getting a room turned into a painting studio for her. I thought that was really nice of her dad to, really take that into consideration to give her an outlet, a space to go to be able to do her paintings and work on her art. Now, Bo, he actually ended up arriving and to see Ruby and went into the studio with her. Now, while he's in there being fresh with her, he's like, oh, okay, well, you can pay me. And he basically drops down to the nude. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that couldn't have been smart. One, you have the servants who are around in the house. You never know when her dad is gonna pop in. You never know where Giselle is gonna come from. And Daphne, hello, no, not a good idea, Bo. And guess what happened? Daphne ended up coming home, and immediately, I don't know why, she went straight to that room, the painting studio, and realized that the door was locked. So they're scrambling to hurry up and get him dressed. And then she finally answers the door, and Daphne's like, yeah, no locked doors. We don't do no locked doors in this house, especially in a room when you're in there with the boy. Don't do that. Very interesting, because Giselle, my dear, is a wild child. But okay. So that's that. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. Now, moving past that part, Ruby actually, they went to school, and come to find out, the naked picture of her that those boys took is circulating through the school. And I'm just like, that is so trashy. Like, come on. And then Giselle gonna walk through there and say, just so you know, you guys, that is not me in that picture. I'm like, I could have popped her one. You know what I'm saying? Popped her one. But it's okay. We gonna move forward. And of course, Ruby is so freaking embarrassed about this. And she's just been nothing but nice and just trying to, find love and family. So now Daphne, here she goes again, addressing Ruby about the freaking picture, which of course, she pretty much put her on punishment, saying she can only go to school and come home. She can't do anything else. Now, Ruby, she's sad, upset, and Nina shows up to speak to her. And Nina was the one who actually offered to have her to go and speak to Mama Didi about the whole situation that's going on with Giselle and everything. And I was just like, okay, so that was the open door for what will happen down the line when it comes to the whole incorporation of the voodoo thing. Um, all in all, they ended up doing a voodoo spell on Giselle, and they pretty much let her know, like, hey, once this happens, there's no turning back, honey. You can't turn it back off. So that was a very interesting thing. I I don't like snakes, so that whole scenario was just like very cringy to me, and it was just like, yeah, no, nope, nope, nope. Now the next day, Ruby and Bo, they're leaving the school. Giselle and that other guy who I do not recall his name, Martin. They were in the car like, come on, you guys, let's go do this, whatever. Saying he got some drugs, and they're like, no, we're not fooling with y'all. I'm not fooling with you. No, thank you. Goodbye. So Giselle and Martin, they go on about their day. Now, Ruby wakes up later and finds out that Giselle was in a really bad accident. And the boy, Martin, he actually did not make it, but Giselle was injured really bad. And so, of course, Ruby, she's such a sweetheart that she actually felt terrible about this and immediately was like, oh my gosh, like, what did I do? Like, I didn't want to hurt her or kill her. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think she fully understood, like, what could possibly happen when you dive into those things. So she goes straight to Nina and it's like, can we take it back? Can we change it? Like, we need to go back to Mama Didi. Nina's like, yeah, you can't change that once it's out there, honey. It's done. Now, Ruby, which is why I can't believe why anyone would ever consider her a liar, because Ruby has always pretty much been straight, for the most part, I think straightforward, and will say exactly, because a lot of things she didn't lie about. This girl went to the hospital to see Ruby and freaking told her that she put a curse on her, and then she think that the accident was because of what she did. I'm like, Ruby, oh, no, Ruby, no. Why did you tell her that? You already know this girl does not like you. Oh, Lord. But she told her about Mama Didi and everything and begging for forgiveness. I'm like, oh my gosh, Ruby, no. But, okay. Anyway, now Daphne, moving forward, past that, Daphne actually ended up asking for Ruby to go with her to go visit Uncle John, because her father has just not been in a good mind set since what has occurred with Giselle. And, she wants to go, but she don't want to go by herself. So can you come with her? I'm like, okay, yeah. Now, all in all, exactly what I thought was a little bit fishy. This girl done tricked her into being admitted into a psychiatric facility. Okay? Because it made sense as to why when she got there, Daphne wanted to step out and say, oh, I need to go to the restroom. And then the lady starts asking just Ruby all these freaking questions. I'm like, what the So Ruby is basically admitted for psychiatric evaluation to keep her there. While she's there, she actually runs into her Uncle John, who was waiting for his visit from his brother, her father. And once she gets to speaking, he just has an episode and they have to remove him and take him out. Now, there was someone there. They were actually very nice to Ruby and, told her basically how to escape. And that is exactly what baby girl did. She escaped right out of that facility and dipped out of there. And I'm just like, so at this point, anybody could sneak out of there. Ruby came right on out of there, went straight back to the Dumont family home and walked right on in those doors. And when I tell you the look on Daphne's face while she was sitting in there with her little prissy friends talking, and Ruby laid it right on out. You can go ahead and dismiss your friends, ma'am, because I need to speak to you and I'll be upstairs waiting on you in the office when you get, I kind of added a little bit extra to that, but that's okay. So that's that. Now, as she gets up there, she is talking to Daphne. And I mean, really talking and giving it to her straight. Now, mind you, at this point, her father is in the house and he overhears the conversation. And so he basically said, okay, we're going to have to cut it out with all the secrets. We're not going to do this to each other. He basically told her how his brother ended up in the predicament that he's in. He's saying that he is actually the reason why his brother is brain dead, and it was basically a sibling jealousy type of situation. Um, and I was just like, wow, okay, so you see how that trickled on down into your daughters having a little sibling jealousy thing going on there. How crazy is that? So that is why her father will just get so sad about his brother because of what he did to his brother, you know? Now Giselle, she's back home. She's in a wheelchair. She needs, people to help her out. Still being in a little ugly mood, but you would think that accident would kind of change her perspective on life, but it didn't. Um, so her dad basically approached Ruby with the idea of her actually joining Giselle at this all girls boarding school that he's going to send Giselle to. He thinks, even though Giselle may put up a fight, he thinks it would be a good idea for Ruby to be there as well as a little bit of, help. Just to be there, as a support system, which I would have been like, which Ruby actually was very excited to go because she's like, okay, fine, that would be great. My new picture that I've been circulating around the school is just some bad energy. Yes, I would like to go. Me, on the other hand, I would have been like, girl, you can actually, I don't want to go. I want to stay here and I want to go to regular school and you can let her go to boarding school. Okay. Yeah, I would have stayed. Anyway, Paul actually arrived after this information got out, about going to the boarding school. Paul arrives to do my house to find Ruby. Now they shared a kiss and Ruby was just kind of like, oh yeah, no, we can't. We're not going to do that. And basically, she's like, dude, you're going to have to get over this love that you have for me because we cannot do this because it is not right. And Ruby knows this. All right. So we're going to hold on to that for moving forward in the next episodes. Now, the funniest thing at the end of the first episode was when she told Giselle that she had a surprise for her. And she was like, guess who's coming to dinner? And she said, it's their brother Paul. And when I say Giselle was like, oh, just not happy about that either. So now we know that Giselle does know that she also has to have a brother as well, whose name is Paul. So we are going to see what happens with the rest of this season. There is 3 more episodes from what I saw. So I will get to work on those as quickly as I can. I really hope you enjoyed this. It's really long, so I tried to get as much of it as I could. But I really enjoyed the series. I've already watched all the episodes, but I do have to go back and make my notes on each one of them. So yeah, if you stuck through this with me, I want to thank you for watching and I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a good day. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you do like the content that I am putting out. If you have any other suggestions for any movies, TV shows, please let me know. All right. Thank you and have a beautiful, wonderful day. Bye, y'all.